Our next speaker is going to tell us more about culture and history as big data blind spots. A case study from South Africa. She is Fathima Paruk, Trends, Insight and Strategy at Woolworths Foods. Fatima, please come on stage. The stage is yours, and let's give her a big applause.
Fine. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. So, these are my grandmother's hands. These are the hands that have raised me. They have cooked, they have cleaned, they have kneaded dough, they have cooked some more, they have stitched and sewed, cooked some more, and yes, cooked more. My grandmother is the reason I find the connection between food and culture so fascinating. In fact, it's been said, tell me what you eat and I'll tell you who you are. My grandmother does not have a voice in big data. Before I talk about this case study, I have to take you back and give you a quick history lesson on South Africa. And before I start, I want to let you know that any of the terms that I may use are widely accepted in South Africa and commonly used. Race is spoken about a lot. So at first, the first inhabitants of the land were the Khoisan people, and these were different from the many African tribes that existed in many of the other parts of South Africa. Then came the Dutch settlers, and during that time, there were many people from Malaysia and Indonesia brought in as slaves, and brought in with them their culture from their homeland. At this time, there were also many Jewish immigrants that came to open businesses in South Africa. The colored community refers to people who have mixed ancestry. And in the 1900s, South Africa became a British colony. And at this time, there were many ships that were brought in from India that contained laborers as well as business people for greener pastures. In 1948, South Africa became an independent state, and this is when apartheid was enforced. And during apartheid, racial classification was the foundation of all laws. And what this meant was basically people were put into 4 groups, no matter what culture, community, or race you actually belonged to. My grandmother would have been put into the Asian group of people. And what this meant basically was that it dictated what she could do and when. During the 18 and 1900s, my grandmother was part of a very important group called the Women's Cultural Group. And what they did basically was forge a vibrant and purposeful life for themselves during a time that was not particularly hopeful. One of the most important things that they did was the publication of a recipe book called The Indian Delights. But this was just not any recipe book. What they did was go from home to home, person to person, watching the best chefs and translating those recipes into measurements, into teaspoons and tablespoons, thereby preserving the heritage. Now, 30 years later, and the shifting landscape of South Africa, there is an emerging middle class of all these smaller cultures and groups. And this emerging class is drawn to the company that I work for, Woolworths. Woolworths is an aspirational food retailer. Woolworths stands for convenience. Woolworths is purpose-led. Woolworths is convenience, health and well-being, innovation, and Woolworths is the one thing that people miss when they leave South Africa. But Woolworths was missing a trick. Let's hear a few customer voices.
Woolies. Not really.
It's more of the white South African because of the type of food they have, the smaller quantities, the flavors are quite different from what we know.
I think if you even look at the quantities, for example, like I said earlier, so things are sort of minute, whereas we really, as African people, tend to be from bigger families. Okay, maybe now things are changing a little bit with my generation, but our families are typically larger. So if you're going to buy something in Woolworths, you don't feel like it's been packaged for the big family. So, like, okay, it's for a white family where there's just 2 kids and mom and dad, and that's it.
What culture would it be?
It's London. It's cold.
And reserved.
Yeah, and reserved.
As you can hear, we were getting it wrong. In 2022, we conducted a deep ethnographic study into food and culture and identified these key groups. The big data that Woolworths was using saw a cloud and merged cultures into homogeneous groups, when actually all these different groups were wanting to be seen, celebrated, and understood. Unpacking these cultural groups also unlocked so many special occasions to connect with people. Special occasions are moments of connection, and food is such an important part of these connections and celebrations. If we understand that food is an inroad to an emotional core, it is only by understanding these nuances in cultures and understanding these nuances in food that we can truly connect with customers. Now that Woolies had a new lens to view products and communities, let me tell you about a story about a milkshake. In South Africa, there is a large Muslim community, and it's traditional for them during their fasting month to open their fast or break their fast with a rose-flavored milkshake. Now imagine Woolies recognizing this and seeing this. One product, one milkshake. Let's see the impact.
The obvious reaction was, wow, Woolworths really knows their customers, and to me this is phenomenal because it is a recognition of the diverse cultures within South Africa. And ultimately, if you look at food tells a story of the story of history and power. So if you in a decolonization mood, then you will get to this. You will start understanding that we need to pay attention to the flavors, the ingredients, the heritage of our food, and what food can teach us, on the journey to creating a more equitable, anti-racist society for the future.
Remarkable. One product, one launch, and an entire community feels seen and appreciated and connected with. My takeaway is to disaggregate big data. There is potential, of course, in big data, but big data needs to be disaggregated for meaningful insights. Analyzing the averages does not always give you the layers and the depth that is required. And the greatest weakness that we can do is to decontextualize human behavior and remove the real world setting. This is an image which basically shows the trends of migration around the world. And it shows that cultures are constantly in flux around the world, and the relevance of this case study to everyone sitting here. A strong grasp of historical context, culture, language, and history will only deepen our understanding of people and understand them. Ideally, that's what we want to do, connect with them. In fact, it's been said about 85% of a consumer's purchase decisions are driven by how a product makes one feel. Big data and algorithms are ultimately being used to inform AI models of consumer behavior. That means any blind spots in our current data or algorithms will likely be perpetuated by AI. We cannot look to the future of AI and consumer behavior without fixing those blind spots. In summary, meaningful insight that accounts for context and representation requires big data to be disaggregated. A deep, nuanced engagement with culture and history provides the basis of understanding customers. And AI is an extension of big data and algorithms. We need to fix these blind spots before taking it into the future. These are my grandmother's hands. She did not have a voice because of the time that she lived in. But today, everyone deserves to be heard. Thank you.